So I just finished watching Dream's new video, Minecraft Speedrunner vs. 4 Hunters. And first of all, it was a very entertaining video, very interesting, very intense. If you haven't watched it, do watch this. This obviously spoils the end because I'm going to be talking about the ending to the video. First, I want to say that this video is extremely entertaining, super fun, super intense. If you haven't watched it, do watch the entire thing all the way through. Very interesting. Then come back to this because I want to discuss what happened at the end. You know, both parties involved, Dream and the Hunters, did a very good job. It was very entertaining. They both pulled out some new tricks. Some succeeded, some didn't. You know, you just have to watch to figure all that out. But if you go to the end, you can see the Ender Dragon is very low. He's got some TNT you can see in the bottom. What he ends up doing is placing TNT, lighting it, and then dying in the process. So let's just play that real quick.
Oh no! Ah, no! 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 Wait! Yes, I killed the dragon! I killed the dragon!
So you can see on the bottom right, he gets the achievement for killing the dragon. So he does kill the dragon, but he does die to Sapnap right beforehand. So here's where the controversy starts and where it gets interesting, where you can start debating whether this is a tie or a loss by Dream. So if you go in the beginning of the video, right, where he explains the video concept, he says
so
this.
Here we are. Can they stop me from beating the Ender Dragon, or will I survive?
So he does say beating the Ender Dragon or surviving, right, are the conditions to winning or losing. If you go into the previous video, he says the same thing.
Can they stop me from beating the Ender Dragon, or will I survive?
We don't actually get a whole lot of information here because all he's saying is he either beats the Ender Dragon or he dies, right, or he doesn't survive. A previous Manhunt, actually, he explains it a little bit better. He says this.
I lose. If I beat the Ender Dragon, I win.
So we can say that the preconditions to winning or losing are if he dies before the Ender Dragon is slain, then he loses. If he defeats the Ender Dragon before he dies, he wins. So with those conditions in mind, then it seems like it's a clear-cut decision that Dream lost fair and square to his opponents. But you need to specify what defines defeating the Ender Dragon, right? If you go just by getting the achievement, as in the actual death of the Ender Dragon, the physical death of the Ender Dragon, then yeah, Dream actually did lose, right? He definitely did die a substantial amount of time before the actual death of the Ender Dragon, aka getting the achievement, right, for the end. But in most speedruns, the classifications for actually finishing a speedrun are completing the last action required to finish the game, right? Now, obviously, Manhunt isn't a speedrun, and Minecraft speedruns, you know, most of them end when you exit the end, as in actually go through the portal, because that is the final action as determined, you know, to end the speedrun. But in Manhunt, obviously, you do not need to exit the end to win, as shown in previous Manhunts where he simply defeated the Ender Dragon and then subsequently died right afterwards before escaping the end. And those were counted as wins, right? So you do not need to exit the end in order to win in Manhunt. Well, if you go by most other speedruns that have a classification for ending a run, it's usually the last action that you can possibly take before finishing the game, right? In many games, there are cutscenes at the end, so you do not need to watch the cutscenes, right? That sort of thing. So you would hit a button at the end, and it'll trigger something, and if that something is something that you cannot interact with, that does not add time, or can affect your final time, then it doesn't count. You can argue that the lighting of TNT is the same thing. The last action that directly contributed to the death of the Ender Dragon, that was the direct link between Dream and the death of the Ender Dragon, was the TNT exploding. The lighting of the TNT is the final action possible to kill the Ender Dragon, because the TNT is exactly what kills the Ender Dragon just moments later. So you can say that the death of the Ender Dragon is actually sealed right here when he lights the TNT, and obviously he is not dead yet. He dies after he lights the TNT and before the TNT goes off. It's a tricky call because it can be technically a win or a draw if you accept the fact that the final action that results in defeating the game, or in this case killing the Ender Dragon, because by Dream's words in the beginning of every Manhunt video, he says, I defeat the Ender Dragon or I die, right? That's kind of the general gist you get. So does he defeat the Ender Dragon when he lights the TNT, or when the TNT actually goes off, right? That's the real question. For continuity's sake, I would argue that completing the final action of lighting the TNT, which directly correlates to the dragon's death moments later, does count as defeating the Ender Dragon, because there is nothing else he can do after the fact. The fuse time of the TNT is a constant, and that cannot be controlled, right? Just like how a cutscene at the end of a video game cannot be controlled. So you remove that. You only count the final action that was performed in order to finish the game, or in this case, defeat the Ender Dragon. So yes, you can argue that, even by Dream's words, if I die once before the Ender Dragon is slain, then he loses and his friends win. or the hunters win. And at first glance, it seems like that's what happened. You can see there are almost several seconds after he dies that the TNT explodes and kills the Ender Dragon. But the final action was completed by Dream to kill the Ender Dragon. So does he kill the Ender Dragon before and win? Or is it a technical tie? I don't know, I guess it's up to you to decide, and if Dream has already decided that it's a loss, as he does at the end of the video. Dream does state that he does think that they technically won because he died before the Ender Dragon was slain. But he doesn't take into account that his final action before death directly corresponds to the dragon's death.
I think technically you won, because what I would have said is I would have said that it's if I die before killing the dragon, I died before killing the dragon. The same thing when I killed the dragon and then died. I said that I killed the dragon before I died. Yeah,
We win.
I guess technically you win.
So you can see he says technically they win. He's kind of going with it, and, you know, just good sportsmanship. Congrats on him. And I'll have to agree with him if that's what everyone here decides. As the ruling, then yeah, sure. Right, then they set a precedent for the killing condition of the dragon, which is the actual death of the dragon, and not the final action taken by Dream or the speedrunner to defeat the dragon. So while yes, Dream did technically die before the Ender Dragon was killed, I would still like to argue that, just for continuity of all speedrun categories, that at least I know of and that I've watched and that I've participated in, it's usually the final action taken by the runner, or in this case Dream, that directly corresponds to the end of the game, or in this case the challenge, that announces the end of the speedrun or the challenge. So I would argue that this lighting right there, that lighting of the TNT is the final action by the speedrunner to meet the conditions of the death of the Ender Dragon. So in my mind, the Ender Dragon at this point is already defeated because there is not a single action after this point that can alter the end condition of the Ender Dragon. In my personal mind, I consider this Ender Dragon defeated. While Dream does die moments later, and then moments later after that, the Ender Dragon, I do still think that the end conditions of defeating the Ender Dragon are met. It's all up in the air, so let me know whatever you think. Did he technically die before the Ender Dragon was defeated? Or did he meet the final condition to kill the Ender Dragon before he died? Is it a draw? Did Dream win because he lit the TNT before his death? Did he lose because he died before the Ender Dragon actually died, before it exploded? Let me know. It's very interesting. I think this is very important because continuing on, if they continue doing the Speedrunner vs. Hunters videos, I think this needs to be explained. I think this rule needs to be set on what the killing condition for the Ender Dragon actually is. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed this. Leave your feedback in the comments. I'll see you later.